A horrific crash caught on camera. A black Mercedes plowing into a Los Angeles intersection Thursday afternoon.
You remember this? Well, that was Nicole Litton. She's a 36-year-old nurse who had her whole future ahead of her. She is currently being held on a $90 million bond. The crash that you witnessed killed 6 people, of those 6 being a woman with her child and unborn child. Litton is from Houston and was driving her Mercedes in Los Angeles through the Windsor Hills intersection. Do you want to know the reason supposedly why Litton drove through that intersection? She was out drinking under the influence and supposedly had a screaming duel over FaceTime with her boyfriend while driving. Under the influence, she lost it, let those emotions kick in, and decided to try to end her life. And the crazy part is, she survived, but injured and ended the lives of many other people who had bright futures. Think twice before getting in that driver's seat, and don't let temporary emotions cause permanent decisions. Like this video and follow my page for more updates on this story.
This is an extremely disturbing case. So in August 2005, China Arnold of Ohio was having an argument over Paris's paternity with the dad. After they fought, she stuck her 28-day-old baby inside of this microwave for over 2 minutes with it running. She ended up dying when her temperature reached 108. The next day, the parents took her to the hospital, and China tried to say that she was intoxicated so she doesn't know how the child died. But that was bullshit. While she was in jail awaiting trial, she ended up having a romantic relationship with her cellmate, and she confessed to her how guilty she felt over the murder. So that lady ended up testifying against her, which caused China to get life in prison. It's honestly so messed up. China tried to get her other son to lie and say that the neighbor killed her baby, but that was proved to be BS, and now she'll rot in prison.
The Murder in Each State, Part 7, Tennessee. On November 21st, 2016, Emma Walker, who was 16, asked her mother to wake her up at 6 a.m. for school. When her mother went to wake her, she didn't move. Her mother knew there was something instantly wrong, so she tried to find a pulse, but she couldn't find one, so she called the police. When the police arrived, they found a bullet hole in the wall of her bedroom. It was determined that Emma was shot while she was sleeping from someone outside. Once the police started questioning Emma's family and friends, only one name came up multiple times of who would want to hurt her. The person was Emma's ex-boyfriend, Riley. Riley and Emma dated on and off again for about 2 years. This relationship was toxic. He was controlling and possessive. Emma had officially ended their relationship, and that drove him crazy. When the police spoke to Riley, he said he didn't know anyone who would want to hurt Emma. Riley's friends came forward to the police and said that Riley was out until 4 a.m. the night that Emma died. So the police and Riley's friends tried to work together to catch Riley giving up a confession. Riley then told his friend where the gun was, and then he was arrested. He was sentenced to life in prison.
Did you guys see this story out of Michigan? Wendy apparently tried to hire a hitman to get rid of her husband. The problem is, she thought Google would be the go-to source for this. And Google took her to the website called rentahitman.com. Rent a Hitman, your point-and-click solution, 100% HIPAA compliant. You guys, they've even won customer service awards. They even offer group and senior discounts. This is too good. COVID-19 got you down? Don't worry, they're still open. You guys, there's customer service testimonials. This is too awesome. Laura from Arizona was able to get her cheating husband taken care of. You guys, this is so funny. Now, this is obviously a fake site like The Onion, but this silly lady didn't know better. And so the owner of the site turned in her application that she filled out to the police, where she was then arrested at a fake meeting time. This owner of the website has turned in 1,500 people who have tried to find hitmen online.
Does this house look familiar? It belongs to this young lady, Dorothea Puente. If you like murder, which is why you're here, you probably know who she is, but I have some interesting facts for you. In 1982, she was convicted of theft for drugging and stealing from one of her boarders at her boarding house and did 3 years in prison, where she met a pen pal, a lovely man from Oregon who picked her up from prison in his red Ford pickup. They talk about marriage. Not long after that, she hired someone to install some wood paneling in her house. And she paid him with a red Ford pickup. Then hired him to build a box, a 6x3 by 2 foot box for books and things. Then they drove somewhere and dumped it where you dump miscellaneous household things. Surprise! Her boyfriend's body was in it. She hired a local homeless alcoholic man to dig up the basement. Then he went missing. The house is definitely haunted.
Okay, I recently learned about my new favorite group of women in history, and they're called the Night Witches. They're an all-female Soviet pilot team who bombed a bunch of Nazis in World War II. They would fly at night in these planes that were too small to show up on radars, and when they got close, they would turn off their engines so that they would swoop low and be silent when they dropped the bombs. The women were from ages 17 to 26, and as you can imagine, they had it pretty rough. They were constantly sexually harassed, and they got frostbite a lot of the time because it was so cold when they were flying and they didn't have any windows. They were also only given hand-me-down uniforms and equipment, and a lot of times their engines would stall while they were flying. So what did they do? They climbed onto the wing of the plane in mid-air and would restart their propellers. It's estimated they completed over 30,000 raids, and we love a group of women killing Nazis.
Hi, I'm Cam, and this is 1 Minute Murder. 16-year-old Aaron Campbell was a popular local with a close circle of friends. Despite his history of depression, self-harm, and dark humor, nothing led people to believe he would be capable of the horrific acts he would commit. Except a Facebook message he sent, quote, "Might kill one day for the lifetime experience." On July 1st, 2018, Aaron had 15 friends over for a house party. Aaron texted a few people trying to buy some weed, but didn't get a response. One of those who received that text was Robert MacPhail. Because Robert didn't answer the phone and Aaron desperately wanted the drugs, he decided to take them for himself. He walked a short distance to Robert's place and snuck in without waking anyone up. He glanced into the room of a sleeping 6-year-old girl, Alicia MacPhail. Aaron said, quote, "All I thought about was killing her once I saw her." He took Alicia from her bed and kidnapped her. Hours before this, Alicia had fallen asleep after watching the Peppa Pig DVD. Aaron walked with Alicia in his arms to the shoreline, eventually arrived at their destination and proceeded to rape and kill the 6-year-old girl. Aaron was soon connected to the crime and arrested. He told a prison psychologist that he had to try very hard not to laugh during his trial, and that he was quite satisfied with the murder. He got 24 years.
This woman killed 600 men with makeup. Giulia Tofana lived during the 17th century in Italy when women didn't have a lot of power. But she was an entrepreneur who developed her own poison called acqua tofana. It was colorless, tasteless, odorless, could kill a man in 4 drops, and was undetectable after death. She sold it to women disguised as cosmetics so that they could kill their abusive husbands and live out their lives freely as widows without any suspicion. This went on for decades before officials realized she was one of the most successful poisoners in history, and she was executed.
So if you haven't heard of the Yellow Deli people or the 12 Tribes communities, they're a religious group that was founded in the 1970s. They own and run a bunch of these yellow delis, as well as several other businesses, because it gives them money, obviously, and also helps them with recruitment. The architecture is beautiful, but it's built by all their members, including children who start when they're 6 and are not allowed to play. They are very problematic and sometimes forbid their women from speaking. Also, they think slavery is necessary and still claim they're not racist. They're also pretty anti-Semitic, yet they adopt a lot of teachings from Judaism. They also believe in corporal punishment for children. The kids are beaten multiple times a day, and they compare child labor laws to Hitler and totalitarianism. Also, big surprise, they don't have access to modern medicine, and the kids are homeschooled so they don't learn sex ed or evolution. This is by far one of the weirdest cults that I've ever researched before. So in the 1920s in LA, May Otis Blackburn and her daughter Ruth started this cult called the Great 11 Club, and it was entirely run by women. They said that they were contacted by 2 angels and were told they needed to write a book revealing all the secrets about the universe. They also believed that once the apocalypse happened, 11 queens would rule the world from Hollywood mansions. Honestly, sounds like a good time to me. So this is May's stepbrother and husband, Ward. He really contributes nothing to the story except that he was a pedophile and has 5-inch fingernails. For the most part, it was just a money laundering scheme, but they did call this thing the light of God, and now that we're worshiping cats, I'm down. Eventually though, shit did get really weird because they started sacrificing animals and then kept a dead girl in a bathtub for 3 years. Check out episode 61 for more info.
Hi, I'm Kim, and this is 1 Minute Murder. Catherine Knight was the first Australian woman to be sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Catherine's father was a violent alcoholic who would rape her mother up to 10 times a day. He also claimed she was sexually abused by other family members until she was 11. Catherine acquired her dream job when she was 16, the local slaughterhouse. She was quickly promoted to boning and given her own set of butcher knives. She hung these butcher knives directly over her bed so they would always be handy if she needed them. On the wedding night with her first husband, she tried to strangle him because he only had intercourse with her 3 times and then fell asleep. This marriage ended after she burned his clothing, stabbed him, and killed his dog. Catherine moved into the house of John Price in 1995. When John refused to marry Catherine, she filmed all the equipment John had stolen and sent it to his boss. The items were expired medical equipment he had taken out of the garbage. On February 29th, John told his coworkers if he didn't come into work the next day, it would be because Catherine Knight killed him. At 6 a.m. on March 1st, the very next day, police found the body of John alongside Catherine, who was in a comatose from taking too many pills. Catherine had stabbed him at least 37 times, then skinned him and hung it on a meat hook in their living room. She decapitated him and cut off parts of his body. She cooked him in a pot and served a slush with baked vegetables and gravy. She set up 2 places at the table with his children's name on them. She was serving John's meat to his own children.
The fact that people can look at O.J. Simpson's history of abusing Nicole and still think he didn't kill her and Ron is absurd to me. They got together when she was freshly 18 and he was 30. He also made her drop out of school to spend more time with him and was already rich, famous, and married, so there was a problematic power dynamic between them from the get-go. He was jealous and forceful from their very first date. She couldn't even go to the bathroom without telling him where she was going. In 1989, he beat her and threatened to kill her and was arrested for spousal battery, but virtually nothing happened to him. There were 52 incidents of abuse, police were called 9 times, and OJ was only arrested once. Even after she was able to leave him, he continued to stalk, control, and abuse her. OJ manipulated Nicole, her family, and the public into thinking that he loved her and was a good guy, because that's what abusers do.
Raise your hand if you want to hear more about Jeffrey Dahmer than you ever wanted to know. When he was young, he started collecting like dragonflies and butterflies and keeping them in jars, like kids do. It's a thing. Then he moved up to getting like roadkill from the road. And dissecting them and keeping parts in jars because he wanted to see how animals fit together. His dad was a chemist, and one time at dinner, Jeffrey asked him what would happen if you bleached bones. Regular, Sunday dinner talk. So he was excited that he liked science, and he told him all about how to, preserve bones, which came in handy later. He committed his first murder in 1978, just a few weeks after he graduated high school. So when his parents got divorced, his dad went on a vacation and his mom moved out and he just had the house. Eventually his dad came back, but not soon enough. Spent 1 semester at Ohio State University where his GPA was .45.
Hi guys, welcome back to True Crime with Darius. Today we're covering the case of Skylar Neese as recommended by Picnic Party. On July 6th of 2012, 16-year-old Skylar Neese snuck out of her parents' apartment in Star City, West Virginia at 12:30 a.m. to get into a 4-door black sedan, and this was caught on security cameras, as you can see below. So what Skylar didn't know is that earlier on the same day, her best friends, Sheila Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, who were 16 and 17 at the time, actually packed that same car with kitchen knives, cleaning utensils, fresh changes of outfits, and actually a shovel. It was discovered later that the 2 girls had been plotting the death and the murder of Skylar Neese for months previous. And that night, on July 6th, they had been calling her and texting her multiple times because she had recently had a falling out with them. And so when they finally convinced her to come, they said, hey, we're going to be smoking weed, we're going to be going on a joyride, please just come with us. And Skylar agreed.
This woman's name is Claire Headley, and she used to be an executive in the Church of Scientology. She was born into the church and signed a billion-year contract when she was only 7 years old. If she tried to leave, she was threatened with freeloader's debt, and she also said that she was coerced into 2 abortions. This is something that a lot of women who escape Scientology say. Also, if you're mad about that last point, you should definitely be mad about this that's going on right now. Her husband, Mark, actually escaped a couple months before her, and he was literally chased down by Scientologists, and they caused his motorcycle to crash. Claire got a burner phone to communicate with Mark, and once she got approved to go pick up her contacts at Walmart, she got on a bus to Vegas and got the fuck out of there. Scientologists followed her and tried to take her back, but she threatened to cause a scene, so they let her go. Now the church just runs a website against them, trying to discredit them by saying, look at all these pictures, they had a great time while they were here.